Perfection is the huge issue because there's the I don't want to start this because I know it's not going to be perfect. And so there's a lot of I don't have the energy to complete a task to perfection, so I'm not going to start the task.
What's up, ADHD reWired listeners? Before we get started with today's show, I just wanted to let you all know that we're having another spring registration event this week for our upcoming season of coaching and accountability groups this Thursday, March 7th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Go to coachingrewired.com to get your name added to our spring interest list and start your pre-registration process today. That's coachingrewired.com to get your name added to our spring interest list so you can join us for our next spring registration event in just 2 days. This Thursday, March 7th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. More about our coaching groups at the break. And now, on with today's show. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD reWired. Today's guest is Kristin Koliha. Kristin is a clinical social worker with a background in working with those with an ADHD diagnosis. She's a mom of 2 kids who have ADHD, a business owner, and also has ADHD as well, and received that diagnosis later in life. She works as a coach and educator for those with ADHD who struggle to manage their homes, working with them to create an individualized strategies to help with homekeeping. She focuses on mindset shifts, ADHD diagnosis education in the context of home and environment, and support for those who want to take their homes from chaos to calm. Kristin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
So your area of focus is on sort of home stuff.
Yes, homekeeping.
How come that became your niche focus?
I'm a therapist who's worked a lot with ADHD folks for years, and I am a mom and have 2 boys with ADHD, and had set up a lot of things in my house just to sort of, it made sense for me and for them. And I realized, as most women, adult women are getting diagnosed, that, their kids who have ADHD look a lot like them. And so then I went and got diagnosed and then realized a lot of the things I had, of course, set up worked for my brain, worked for their brain. Also working with adults with ADHD in therapy, one of the things that they were really struggling with if they had recently left the house, like their parents' house, or had left. Sorry, I just laughed at the thumbs up bubble.
So Zoom is trying to distract us. Like we don't need any help with the distractions here.
So they had either, it was kind of setting up their first space, right? And if someone had sort of done everything for them, they kind of like always knew where everything was. They had that safety net of a parent or a roommate sometimes who would be like, your keys are over here, or do the dishes, it's your turn, right? They had those prompts. And when they were moving into their own spaces, it was like, oh, this is really tough. So it was a combination of those newly minted adults who are trying to adult, and then my own experience of also trying to raise kids and give them the skill set of like, my keys have always had a landing zone because I was so tired of wasting years searching for them. Partly because I have a background in clinical social work, so I've done brain study stuff, and I just naturally gravitated towards that and sort of problem solving. But then it kind of all clicked and made sense. So that's why I think environment's super important, and I think it can really impact how you feel. It impacts your symptomology, and so just really making sure that working through, how it doesn't have to be a struggle. It can actually be a little bit of self-care. And approaching it slightly differently.
Would you describe yourself as an organized person?
I would describe myself. I have a quiz, and I do like a piler, a stuffer, a magician. And I am a piler, and I know I'm a piler. And I know I like to put things in those doom piles. I know that's my tendency. So I work really hard at, okay, my default is to throw it on a pile. So I have to work hard at Okay, I got to sort this. I got to touch it once. I literally have to repeat in my brain when the mail comes in, touch it once, touch it once, touch it once, touch it once. Otherwise, it will be 3 months later and I'll find that bill that I'm like, oh, I didn't pay that. And then the ADHD tax shows up. So organized, yes, in my own way. And I know that clutter overwhelms my brain. And I know that that's one of the things that visually, if I see it, I have to take care of it.
It's funny because, like, for me, like, I'm definitely affected by clutter, but I feel like it's not enough of a kick in the ass for me to do something about it. But it's it's a little bit crazy making because it's like I know that stuff. I struggle with stuff. I'll walk around with an item in my house, like, go put it away, but I don't know where it goes. So I literally just put it back in that pile, or maybe I'll put it in a different pile and I'll put it to another room because thinking that's going to magically help me figure out where the hell this thing goes. It's frustrating.
Well, and that's the like decision making part that's really hard of stuff is that, and that's, for us, we really struggle with making those choices and those decisions. They feel life or death because some of it is if I put this, I don't know, pair of scissors in this room, I will not probably remember that I put the scissors in this room. And so I'm going to go on Amazon and buy another pair of scissors because I can't remember where I put them. And that's where it becomes like, if I put it away, I'm going to be terrified that and this all happens like, it doesn't happen like as long as I took it. It happens like that. And so that's the hard part is we don't realize like, oh, that's why I'm walking around carrying this.
So how do you then help people with the sort of the decisions of what to do with your stuff?
Yeah, it's category. Well, it's starting with, first of all, if you can bring less stuff in, that's the first key, is really being intentional about what you're bringing into your house or your apartment or your space, whatever it is, really thinking about ahead of time. I know it's so tempting to want to buy that new thing. It's super cute and we want to get it and it'll look great. But like, where is it going to live? Really thinking about what's its address? It's like when you get a pet, right? You give it a name and you like know where its bed's going to go or the litter box or the fish tank. Like, where is this thing going to live ahead of time?
It's funny when you say that. So I have in my house, sitting in I call it my piano room. I was on Etsy. This beautiful, it was like this multi-layered wood, like carved out frame thing for the band Fish. I love the band Fish.
Yeah.
And I love this thing. It's literally been just leaning against the wall on the floor since I got it because I actually don't know where to put it. And so when he said, like, before you get it, like, know where it's going, I was like, oh, I missed that step. It's probably why it is still sitting on the floor in my piano room.
But sometimes, like, and what's hard is that sometimes that backfires because we sometimes find a place for something that we'd never thought that that's where it would end up. Like our creative brains then kick in. And like I had to sell a house a couple years ago and I had to stage it. I didn't want to pay for staging. I'm like, I can stage this. I can figure this out. And we had these posters that are like, I don't even know how tall they're French, like advertising posters. They're huge. They're like 6 feet tall by 3 feet wide. And I was like, I don't want to rehang them. I'm having the house painted. So I like leaned them against the wall. And same thing, I was like, who would lean this? Why would I do this? And it looked fabulous, like I had staged it. So that's when it like bites you in the butt, like the creativity piece is like, sometimes the lightning bolt will hit us. So, but I think for especially like the smaller purchases, like that maybe don't have as much emotional attachment, looking at like, where's this going to land? I'll give you another example. I only have a specific amount of hangers. I will not buy any more hangers unless I get rid of clothing because just because I want it I don't have a place for it. My closet is full. I do not need any more black t-shirts, even though I love them. I don't need them. And so I will not buy hangers. I have to swap something out. And so it's thinking about it in that context of like things are like a certain amount.
It's funny because my partner is she's pretty well organized, and she's a graphic designer, so she's like visually like She's very sensitive to her environment, and like everything that she has is with intention.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like she got these like clear drawer like organizers for the nightstand at my house. And she's like, have you ever thought about getting something like this? I'm like, I used to buy stuff like that all the time. And it's like, I used to spend so much money on different organizational tools that would work for a minute.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because it's like organization, like stuff, like physical stuff, specifically in my home, is like the one frontier that I continue to struggle with. Last year on this time, I actually hired a professional organizer. It was traumatic. Like, I did not like working with this person. The sessions were too long. That was one of my biggest issues, was like, she required a minimum of 4 hours. Like, that's 4 hours of me making decisions. She literally walked out of the house with a pile of stuff that I actually didn't want donated, that got mixed in the donate pile. And because like my decision fatigue was so spent, I just let her walk out without her even say anything. I was just like, yeah, no, I know.
It breaks my heart.
and it was funny with this person too. Like, she's like, well, can I, like, can you leave me a review on Google? I was like, how about a conversation? Because I have a little feedback I'd like to give you if you're going to keep working with people with ADHD. Because she was very much like I'm going to tell you how to organize. Like, no. Like, don't tell me how to do anything. Like, ask me questions and let's find the solutions together. Like, that's how I work best.
And we know our brains work best, but we're experiential learners. And so we've got to have like tools. We all use the word tools, and it gets, overused, but it's true. Like, we've got to have things to reach into our back pocket and grab and say, hey, I can use this way. And I remember when I had a newborn and I went to some parent mom group thing, and they had a professional organizer come in, and the first thing she said was, do not go buy anything. Do not go and buy a drawer organizer or a bin or a thing. And I was like, what? Why not? And she explained, like, you probably have it, and that's not the issue. The organizer piece, that isn't what you need to work on. And she was like way ahead of her time. So that's really stuck with me of like, don't go buy the thing to solve the problem. Think about how you can solve it without buying the thing, and what else needs to happen. I mean, sometimes you do have to buy the thing. Sometimes you do have to go buy, like, I had to buy new bins for Christmas because I was out of room, and, I was like, all right, I need to go get more bins. So that was intentional. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to organize my drawers and I don't know what size my drawers are, or I don't know. Like, it's being really intentional about that piece of it. So, and the 4 hours, there's no way you could do 4 hours that's way overwhelming.
Because like my plan was to like get rid of all the clutter, however long it took, and then schedule just regular maintenance sessions. Like, that was my plan. But because I got so kind of burnt from the whole experience, I just like kind of walked away from the whole process of like decluttering and having less stuff. Because like, it's one of these things where it's like I don't even register how affected I am by clutter in my space. But then once it's removed, I'm like, oh. It's like, that moment when you've had a cold for a while and you realize I could breathe again. It's like that moment. Like, that's how I feel when clutter is removed from my space. I don't know how to make that happen. It's frustrating.
It's an ongoing process. I think that's the other part. I think a lot of pressure is put on, oh, you've decluttered, you're good now. And it's not like, there's no medal, there's no award, there's no goal. There's just, it's a process of evaluating constantly. Is this something I need? We put a lot of judgment on it too, of like, oh, your space is cluttered. Oh, that's not good. And it's like, no, it just, sometimes it gets beyond our reach, and we have to bring it back in and take time to look at it. I don't know. It's not this, once you've decluttered, you never buy another knickknack again.
Right. You've arrived. Everything's going to be wonderful. Yeah. As long as you just don't enter your home ever again, it'll be fine. Right?
Exactly.
And many years ago, that I don't remember where I came upon this idea, the idea of like getting organized as like a false premise in a sense.
Mhm.
Like unless you're like organizing a gallery or a museum where like you just look at it, you don't touch anything, right? But that's not what we're organizing. We're organizing our spaces that we are interacting with all the time. So realizing that organizing is the more the word that more accurately describes it, because otherwise we're just going to be frustrated with the mess again if we think that we were supposed to be done because we did it once.
Yeah, it's resetting. It's resetting your space. It's kind of looking at it as we set the table when we eat dinner, but we don't just like leave the same plates and forks there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And like we just reset constantly. And it's okay. We don't think about that as being having any judgment associated with it. But for some reason, we do. We put a lot of emphasis on it has to be. And a lot of it is social media and, all that other stuff. So I think when we begin to look at it starting with mindset versus the outcome, then it shifts. And
Mhm.
we want homes that we can live in that feel comfortable. That doesn't mean they have to look Pinterest perfect. That's not the reality we're going for.
Okay. I want to take a quick break. When we come back, I would love for you to share with us a little bit more about these three sort of categories. You said the piler, the stuffer, and the magician. So I
Okay.
want to hear more about that when we return. So we will be right back. Support for ADHD Rewired comes from the members of our award-winning coaching community. Learn more and get added to our spring interest list at coachingrewired.com. If you missed our past registration events, no problem. We've got another one coming up this week on Thursday, March 7th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That's coachingrewired.com to add your name to our spring interest list so you can start your pre-registration process. Do you have every intention of fulfilling all your New Year aspirations? Are you wondering how you'll keep that New Year excitement and momentum going? Has some of the excitement turned into dread? Because even though you've tried all kinds of hacks, tips, tricks, strategies, you find yourself left feeling overwhelmed and unsure of what to do next. If you are ready to learn new skills or enhance the strategies you already have to live better with your ADHD, reframe what consistency can look like for you, get supportive accountability from like-brained people who are just like you, and you're ready to create your new roadmap to move you closer to your biggest goals, then coaching might be right for you.
It's the instant support, encouragement, validation, connection, and camaraderie from people who just get it.
I really feel this way, that this changed my life.
Every week has been something that has been mind-blowing and life-changing.
Why not join us? That's coachingrewired.com to start your pre-registration process. So you can join us for our next spring registration event happening this week on Thursday, March 7th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Stop trying harder and start working smarter with your ADHD. Because we can do hard things and we don't have to do them alone. And we don't have to do them in the hardest way possible. So get started by going to coachingrewired.com. That's coachingrewired.com. And we can't wait to meet you. All right, we are back. So you have these three categories of sort of organizational styles: the piler, the stuffer, and the magician. So the piler sounds pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. You just sort of put things in piles. When the mail comes in, it lands on the counter, or, kind of have all those bills that need to be paid. I know I'm a piler. I'm trying to look.
I'm a piler too. Like the
books,
the random, like the screws that are in the bowl with the random pieces that like one day you'll remember what these are for. Yeah. Okay. What's the stuffer?
So that's the person who just shoves everything in the closet or the drawer and doesn't care like that it's bursting at the seams and just shuts the door. And so everything might look really tip top on the outside, but man, if you open that cabinet, it's going to be like whoosh, all on top of you. So the hard part with that is that it's visually seeing like what's in the actual space, like what's in the drawer, what's in the closet, what's back there. And those places can feel super anxiety inducing because you can't get your hands wrapped around what you need.
Okay. So there's the stuffer. And then what's the magician?
The magician is the person who just loses it all, loses everything, can't find the keys, can't find is the person who is like, I can't find my phone, I can't find my keys, I can't find my coffee that I put somewhere, and spends a lot of time looking for those things. And they magically disappear. So, and none of these are, they just are. And it's sort of understanding where you land so then you can work with your brain of like, if I'm a magician, landing zones are going to be key for me. I need to have really tight landing zones, almost to a point of like, even maybe putting a piece of paper that says my phone goes here, so you can visually see it. And saying, this is what I do when my working memory is really poor. I am putting my phone on the charger in the kitchen. Like, visually or verbally saying it out loud so that I remember that I actually did it.
It's fine. I will do that. I will, if I'm putting something down in a place that I know is not like where I would normally put it down and I'm coming back to it. If someone's in the room, I will tell them that I just did that. And they're like, what? I'm like, I'm just saying it out loud. So I have a stronger sort of like stamp in my brain of what I just did.
Exactly. Over Thanksgiving, I was setting the table and I needed to get the gravy boat out, and the gravy boat didn't live where the other dishes lived. It's now living where the other dishes are living, by the way. And I kept saying all day long, gravy boat, to myself, and my kids were like, what is wrong with you, Mom? I'm like, I got to remember to get the gravy boat out. And it worked.
Okay. So what are there different strategies then for the pilers and the stuffers?
Yeah, I think for when you're looking at the pilers, it's really, again, wrapping your arms around the fact that this is where you head towards. You head towards putting things in piles. So the touch it once rule, it's like sorting things and making a decision immediately. So the other part with this is that if you know that you have to sort things and this takes a lot of decision fatigue or decisions for you and you're going to get decision fatigue, then making sure, hey, I only get my mail once a week. And I have a lockbox. So, I'm lucky. I don't have it like in my house so I get it once a week. And then I spend 20 minutes sorting that mail. Then it's not a task I have to do every day. If I had to do it every day, it would be thrown into a pile because it's too many decisions. But if I can gear myself up I usually get it on Wednesdays. I grab it on Wednesdays, I sort through it, and then it's done. And I've touched it, but I have the like energy to do it at that time. So it's knowing that I am a piler. It's knowing that my bathroom counter is going to get a little out of control because every product I pull out, I don't put back away. And so I've got to take, a couple minutes when the water's heating to put the things away that I don't need. And so it's really like almost sometimes saying, I got to put a new set of eyes on and take a look at my piles. And it's hard. I think the decision part is the hard part. And then if you don't know where something goes, asking someone, if you have a support person, like I am constantly struggling with where my scissors should live, or I'm constantly struggling with, a tool you use once a week, where this should live, where should my laptop live when I come home? Like I'm constantly struggling, then talking with either the people who are in your space or asking others, where do you put your things, and seeing if that works for you, just crowdsourcing. Cause sometimes, I'm realizing a lot of my friends are ADHD too. So, asking them the tools and strategies that have worked for them.
So where does your laptop go when you come home?
I work from home.
Okay.
So I never go anywhere. And so it lives right here.
Okay.
And it lives here or in my laptop bag. And that is it. So I always know where to find it. Now, my kids, on the other hand, theirs is all over the place. And I have said to them repeatedly, you can't leave it on the couch. You can't leave it on this is the hard part, is when you have other people in your space who are pilers too, and you have to sort of like, hey, I will, my youngest tends to explode. So his stuff kind of goes everywhere. And so I will have to pick it all up for him. And I will say, this all needs to go in your room. And it needs to go where it lives in your room, not just on the floor. And so, I kindly remind him and let me help you if you need it. And 6 times out of 10, it works.
It's probably not so bad. Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the wins when I can get them.
How old's your son?
I have a almost 19 and a 15.
Wow. Okay. All right. So how much would you say that when people are creating systems, does perfection kind of get in the way of the good enough?
Perfection is the huge issue because there's I don't want to start this because I know it's not going to be perfect. And so there's a lot of, I don't have the energy to complete a task to perfection, so I'm not going to start the task. And so redefining I think, mindset about good enough is really important. And whose bar are you working towards? Are you working towards your bar or, a partner's bar or a parent's bar or a roommate's bar? Like, who's the bar that you're trying to get to? And how do you have a conversation with that person around, I can't get to that point, but I can get here. And opening those lines of communication around that. It's just, I think, we struggle with perfectionism. And it's the all or nothing thinking. And, I've heard for years of like, it's got to be this way. And it's not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take one more quick break. And when we come back, let's continue to explore some strategies that maybe some that can help us tap into things like our values. So we will be right back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and all human beings who don't define themselves by those binaries, to the most thrilling spin on productivity you've ever seen. Task Roulette, where your to-do list meets the excitement of chance. Do mundane tasks leave you yawning? Does the mere thought of sorting through your endless to-do list send you spiraling into the vortex of procrastination? Fear not, Task Roulette is here to inject a dose of unpredictability into your daily grind. With just a click, Task Roulette transforms your snooze-worthy chores into a game of luck and excitement. Watch as the wheel spins and let fate decide whether you'll be tackling that big project, cleaning out the garage, or finally starting your tax return from 3 years ago. But the fun doesn't stop there. With each spin, you can land in a mystery task, wildcard breaks, or the dreaded double duty challenge. Will you be the lucky winner or face the ultimate task showdown? And for those of you who thrive under pressure, activate our deadline mode and watch as the stakes get higher. The closer the deadline, the faster the wheel spins, turning every task into a thrilling race against time. Say goodbye to boring productivity apps and say hello to Task Roulette, the only tool that makes getting things done as unpredictable as walking a tightrope over a pool of sharks. Why choose efficiency when you can have excitement? Visit taskroulette.com and spin your first wheel for free. Use promo code It Doesn't Actually Matter because this is not real. Because life is too short for predictable productivity. Task Roulette, turning your to-do list into a to-dare list. Spin the wheel, face your fate, and rediscover the joy in getting things done. Or not. Or experience the joy of things that are real by going to ADHDrewired.com, where you can find real things like our virtual co-working community at adultstudyhall.com, or our coaching and accountability groups, or our Facebook community, or our Patreon community. There is so much real going on at ADHDrewired.com. And yes, We like to help people with ADHD learn to be more productive. We also like to help people with ADHD learn that life is way more than just about being productive. Come join us for real community at ADHDrewired.com. All right, back to the show. All right, we are back. Well, I think when we first spoke, when we did the pre-interview, you said that sometimes things around our values need to change in order to help with some of the organization. Tell me what you were referring to on that.
Yeah. So when we're looking at values, and I think the example that I used at that time was that I live in Seattle area, and we are very environmentally friendly. It's like, which is great. I love it. There's 70,000 different ways to recycle stuff. It's great. But there are times when I don't have the bandwidth to do one more dish, or there are times when I don't have the space to cook a meal. And one of my values is that I provide, I want to be environmentally friendly, and that I want my kids to eat. I don't want to eat out all the time. But there are days when my energy levels are such that I have to shift my values at that time and recognize that the importance of my mental health is more important than I'm not going to save the rainforest by using paper plates. I'm not going to, my kids aren't going to, one day of ordering pizza does not mean they're diabetic. And so it's really loosening a little bit of like the dance and values of like, this is important to me, but my mental health is more important to me. There have been times where, I've been like, I really need to just do a deep clean, but I have a kiddo that, it was like, hey, especially when they were younger, like, let's watch a movie or let's play a game. And those moments are, now that my kids are older, like, they don't want to do that with me anymore. And so having you know, the perfect home and all of that is just not as important as that time. I think you have to look at, we're always doing this value stance. We're always like assessing where we're at, and we can't hold on to things too tightly. Um, we have to recognize when, like, yeah, this is a little bit more important. Family, presence, being present. That's more important.
Mm. And one of the things that I've said is that, like, sometimes having ADHD and using different strategies around managing ADHD isn't always congruent with being green.
Yeah.
And if that's something that really bothers you as an individual, can you plant more trees? I mean, like, to me, it's like, I don't know how much that actually offsets the carbon footprint. At least makes you feel better.
Yeah. We have an electric car.
Okay.
We have other ways that we've sort of tried to live a greener lifestyle.
Let me ask you this. So is it a full electric?
Yeah.
So my son keeps telling me he wants my next car to be electric.
Mhm.
And I think about, okay, I sometimes maybe wait a little bit longer than I should to fill up my gas tank.
Yeah.
And will sometimes fill it up quickly and barely make it to the next thing.
Mhm.
And I realize how much longer it takes to charge an electric vehicle.
So here's the thing
Okay.
is if you plug it in at night, it charges overnight and it's ready during the day.
Okay.
So
you need to have a charger for your car at home.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're screwed.
Well, no, you're not, but it's going to be, again, like getting gas. It's like you have to go and seek out the charger and do the thing. But like to charge it at home for us is like, it's a game changer because, whoever gets home, you get out of the car and it's like closing the garage door. You plug in the car and you close the garage door. And we have certain hours where electric is more expensive than other hours. You can set the car to charge at 11 o'clock at night. So it's cheaper energy. It's like, it's
cool.
great. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So that is nice. And then you don't have the worry of, so I was going skiing on Saturday and I had, 40 miles to empty and it's 75 miles and
That math doesn't work.
4 inches of snow. And if I get stuck up there, right? Like, so I'm like, okay, oh, great. Now I have to get up early to go get the gas and to go, because I didn't take the electric up there because I didn't want to take the, I didn't want to get salt and all the crap on it. So I was like, I'll take my gas car. But again, and then so it's like, oh, one more step. So the electric is nice for that reason, is that you can, it's charged in the morning, it's ready to roll. So
Let's talk about some other, I don't know, just like, there's a lot of strategies that we often hear. I'm always looking for those ones that I haven't heard before, though. What are some of those, like, those organizational strategies, whether it's a specific strategy or a mindset issue or a question to ask yourself? Like, what are some of those ones that are maybe game changers for some people and not the same old?
I think that, like, where something's going to live is always the one when you buy it. Like, literally visualizing where it's going to go is a key piece. And really, like, thinking about this thing, I can see it here. And that can even go down to, like, I mean, I need to buy some new like storage containers for my, for leftovers, right? Like, I'm literally going to think about where they go, rather than just going and buying them. And so it's really stopping and thinking, what's the address for this item? And where will it live? I think, we all know about landing zones and drop zones and things along those lines. I think that's really key. I think switching it up is not being rooted to one thing, is very helpful. So if you get bored with the way you clean your house, clean it differently. A lot of people will tell you to start in one corner and then, go to another. Okay, maybe that doesn't work for you. That's fine. Do it in whatever way it works. I think that you don't have to clean one whole space at one time is another thing to think about. Who says that your bathroom has to all be cleaned together? I don't, it's just thinking about, like, okay, so I'll clean the toilet and then maybe in 2 days I'll clean the sinks. But we have this, like, the bathroom isn't clean until the whole thing is clean. And so shifting the mindset from, like, why can't I just clean part of it? I got 10 minutes. I could do that now.
With the bathrooms, a strategy that I had picked up a while back was kind of goes along with what you're saying. You don't have to do it all at once. Is, for most people, it takes maybe about 2 minutes before the water gets hot on the shower.
Yep.
So turn the water on, and can you clean the toilet before the water gets hot? Great. That's Monday. Tuesday, clean the mirror. Can you clean the mirror before the water gets hot? So you are immediately, it's a short task. You're racing against a something that's right there. Right. And so that made me kind of think about that when you're thinking about chunking it down and not having to do it all at once.
The dishwasher, I like to time myself how long it takes me to unload the dishwasher. Like, can I beat the clock?
How long does it take you?
Usually about 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got a big kitchen. Like, I have this island that you could probably do surgery on. It's huge. And so I got to, but part of it too was, like, I strategically, when we moved into this house, I was very intentional about, okay, here's the dishwasher. I'm not going to put the silverware on the opposite side of the kitchen. So I was very intentional about where I put things and really tried to work with the flow. So it's that, and then I like to gamify it because I want to see how fast I can get it done.
Okay. What about, do you have any strategies for as an ADHD professional? One of the things that I think ADHD professionals struggle with is that, okay, so we know what to do.
Yeah.
More than most people with ADHD. Like, we know the strategies, and yet we're still having a hard time using them. So when it comes to organization, when you are getting a bad case to the I don't wannas, how do you kind of work through that?
I think it's asking why. It's starting with why. Why don't I want to do this? Where's the pain point for me right now? Is it I don't have the energy? Is it I don't have this, like, bandwidth to make decisions? Is it I need support and I don't know how to ask for it? And so it's looking at, kind of honoring what's happening in your brain as far as asking the deeper question instead of, like, oh, well, I'll just deal with it later. Like, no, there's something blocking me right now. And I need to take some time to look at what the why is and honoring it. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the energy. I'm overwhelmed in another area of my life, or I'm super emotional right now, or I'm struggling with perfectionism. Then, taking some time to, break it down, like then do the next things. But I think when we can identify what the emotion is, what the thoughts are and the emotions, then we can begin to pick apart a little bit and make it a little easier than like just do the thing. Like, how many times have we heard just do it? Like, well, we would
Yeah.
if it was
Mm.
that easy.
Yeah. I like to add the word anyways to that. Like, just do it anyways. 'Cause to me,
Yeah.
that kind of acknowledges, yeah, it sucks and it's hard. And like,
Yeah.
for me, like, I find this most when I'm putting a dish in the sink, walking away from the sink, saying, I don't want to do it now, I'll do it later, knowing that's a bunch of bullshit. Like, I don't want to do it now. I don't want to do it later either. Right. And realizing, oh, it's actually takes less time if you wash your dish immediately versus letting it become a science experiment and then figuring out how to chisel all the food off of the plate.
Oh, well, and it's knowing what like the pain point there. Is it like the way that the food feels? Because sometimes like the sensory part of it is what stops people and they don't really realize like, oh, that's gross. Like I don't
Yeah.
like that. I just had a huge conversation with my kiddo about that because our dishwasher, the forks go down, it's stopping the spinner and it's not cleaning. And I was like, forks have to go up. I hate to be that person to tell you how to do it, but we've got tools that work for us. So let's make them. And he goes, I don't like touching where somebody else ate off
Mm.
of. And I was like, yeah, but I get that. Touch the handle, drop it in. It's just you got to do it this way. So I think it's understanding like, is it sensory that I don't want to put the plate in the dishwasher? I don't want to touch it. Is it my brain's working way too fast and I'm already on to the next thing and this is boring and I just want to pop it in there?
I think that's big for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then knowing like, okay, thinking about tomorrow you's going to be really happy when that
Mm.
dish is in the dishwasher and you're going to be like, yeah, okay, thank you. I did it.
Yeah, that helps me a
Yay.
lot. Like when I'm like, there's something I don't want to do, and it's like somewhere between a 2 to 10 minute task. Like, all right,
Mhm.
how will my tomorrow self feel about if I get this done right now? Right. And
Yeah.
it's like, do it for tomorrow self, do it for tomorrow self.
Yeah.
Right. And it helps. And it's, doesn't always work, but we know that the one consistent piece of ADHD, it's inconsistent. And the same thing is true when it comes to like organizing and cleaning. That like sometimes my brain's a rock star and can organize and clean. Other times it feels like I'm trying to like decipher a language that nobody knows. Like it just like I know what I'm looking at, but none of it makes sense to me.
Yeah. And honoring that. And sometimes it's like, you know what? This isn't my time to organize my house right now. It's okay. It's not going to be like this forever. I will take time, but I'm going to use either, a tool. I'm going to use some scaffolding. I'm going to use a body double. I'm going to use somebody
Yeah.
to come in and help me or, knowing like, okay, I need to bring, like just honoring that.
Something that's helped me with the kitchen. I try to kind of live a rule based kind of life, but like rules that are broken, right? So,
Yeah.
so the rule is always clear out the sink before you go to bed,
Hmm.
which I do 65% of the time, right? But
That's good.
so the secondary part to that is so when I don't do it, now I'm hungry in the morning and I want to make breakfast and I want to make breakfast for my son. I will not allow myself to start making breakfast until I've cleaned the sink. And that works for me 95% of the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, mine is I close my kitchen at the end of the night. Like I'm a restaurant and I close it down. And if you've ever worked in the restaurant industry, like they don't leave that kitchen with, I don't know, cereal. They don't leave it a mess. It is ready for the morning or the morning people are going to give you holy hell because you didn't leave it in the way that they need to do their job. So I like to use that like kitchen's closed. You can get a drink, you can get tea or coffee, you can get water, whatever you need, but the kitchen is closed at whatever time. And so that helps me know like, okay, when I am ready for my day, because I'm the first one up and I'm like, I don't want to walk down there and see that. The rest of the family probably could care less, but for me, that's important.
So what do you do when within a family if there are people who have competing levels of giving a shit?
Yeah, we have that. And what we do is we talk about what we've done is where is your, like, what's your pain point? Like, what's the thing that really gets you? It's bathrooms for me. and kitchen. My husband is the floors. I bought him a Roomba for his birthday, and that probably seems like the worst birthday gift, but I got tired of asking my kids to, I had two very furry shedding dogs, and we were vacuuming every day, and I got tired of fighting with the kids to vacuum every day. And so I bought him a Roomba. I was like, happy birthday. And he was like, oh my gosh. And we named it my favorite child because it never backed off. So I get an alert on my phone that my favorite child completed a task. And I'm like, thank you.
How do your children feel about this?
Oh, they know.
They're
used to it.
That's just mom.
Yeah.
That is funny. That is funny.
So we talk about what our, areas are that, kind of get under our skin and where our strengths are. I have, my kids, I tell them, I warn them before I'm going to go check their rooms. I give them a heads up, and then I ask them if they need help, and I tell them we're going to time it, and we're not doing this with judgment. My mouth is shut. And I set the stage for them that I'm not coming in there to go, what the heck? And then the other thing we do is I will send them a text and say, it's Glasses Amnesty Day. I would like you have the next half an hour to go in your room and find all the glasses and bring them back. And I will not say a word about it. So I try to make it a little funny.
Okay, maybe you can help me with a problem that I have. Okay, so my son, socks are everywhere. They're on the couch, they're in the hallway, they're in the bathroom, they're everywhere. And how can I help him not continuously leave the socks everywhere?
I have a sock kid too who takes them off and he puts them under the.
Does yours take up just one at a time and then walk around with one? Because I do that too.
Yeah. And then couch cushion. Puts him under the couch cushion because he doesn't want to that's fun when you have people over and you're like, oh, sounds weird, but I actually have a dirty laundry basket in my kitchen, and I just made him, that pain point was easier than going all the way upstairs. That reduced the stress for him. And I would be like, hey, can you just throw them in there? That doesn't bother him. Going upstairs and putting them in a dirty laundry or in his bedroom, dirty laundry, no way.
I was trying to think of where I could.
I have I have a little one under the sink, and yeah, it's weird, but
I like weird. And weird's great.
But that's put the tools where you need them. That's the key of you need the tools where you're doing the job.
Well, it's funny. My partner last week was like, so it seems like your son regularly leaves his socks and underwear on the bathroom floor. Have you ever thought about putting a hamper in the bathroom? And it was one of these did I really have never thought of doing that for him? Yeah. So yeah, I imagine within the next week there will probably be a hamper in that bathroom.
Yeah. It's so great when we have people who can see sometimes the stuff that seems so, obvious at times. And then we're like, oh, never thought of that. So, but that's where pulling other people in, right? Can be really helpful.
She suggested to me that because sometimes I put my clothes in my hamper that's in my closet. And sometimes it just goes along the wall floor by my bed. And so she's like, what if you put your hamper where you throw it when you're not putting it in the hamper?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, then there's the jeans, or the things that are not really dirty, but not really clean.
That's why we have a chair in the bedroom.
Exactly. We have a mirror. With these great things on the top that you can actually hang a hanger on the side. And it was who invented this? They must have been ADHD because it's perfect.
I actually recently added a bunch of those 3M hooks to my closet for that particular thing. I'm I wore this once. These are my thick line jeans. It's a little bit warmer today. I don't want to wear those again, but they're not dirty. I'm not going to throw them in the hand. For those kinds of things. Or my hoodies. I can wear hoodies a bunch of times before I have to wash them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's better than the chair or the that one that closet or that hanger that you plug in. They usually call a treadmill.
Oh yeah.
Or
yeah.
It's like, oh, I can get a pack of 3 M hooks and can literally just like have 10 things hanging and it's off the floor.
Yeah. And then if like visually feels good for you, but for your partner too, right? Because when we're talking about like when you are in a space with people who have different needs, like that's really kind and honoring their needs because they had kind of said, hey, this shouldn't be here. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I can respect that and put it somewhere else. So that's part of it too, is, we got to give and take a little bit too with our partners and our families.
Yeah. And I think the most, and I, I'll probably still be undoing the messaging that I got growing up because like my diagnosis was lazy slob growing up. Yep.
Mhm.
And I know I'm not lazy. I am not naturally organized, but I won't call myself a slob because that's a mean thing to tell anybody.
Yeah, it's not kind. It's not caring. Mine was she never finishes anything. But she's really smart. And my bedroom was always a mess growing up. I mean, just a tornado hit it, but I knew where everything was. And it was my space and that was okay until then when I had to live with other people and it wasn't okay. And it's like now I see like, oh yeah, now I get why I've, kind of worked through a lot of this and lots of fights at home of get your stuff out of here. And so
Let me ask this one more question here, then we're going to
yeah.
wrap this up. So if maybe a family member or a partner is listening to this, I think it's because, those of us with ADHD can be very sort of shame prone.
Mhm.
So if you're the person the messes are driving you crazy,
Mhm.
how do you help that other person without making them feel like their sense of self is being attacked?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the, for partners, for family members, it's asking, not always asking, what do you need? Because a lot of times we don't know what we need or we would have done it. We are smart. We are amazing problem solvers. If we knew what we needed, we would have figured it out. So I think it's maybe giving 2 options. Let's start here or here and let me help you. And maybe I just need to be in the room with you. Maybe I just need to, I'm going to go do this. Maybe if you did this, we could kind of do it together and making it again, no shame, no judgment, just like not the why can't you do this, but not even how can, what do you need? Let me just sort of come up with some ideas and do any of those hit the mark?
Mm. I think I've said on this podcast for the last many years that organization is sort of my like final frontier in managing my own ADHD. I'm still saying that. So, hey, I don't know. Maybe this will be the year.
But it'll
Or
always
not.
be ongoing, which is okay.
It will always be ongoing. You know what? Like the rest of my life, it's always a work in progress, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all got to grow.
Kristin, where can people reach you and find out more about you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's welcomehomeadhd.com. And you can take my quiz. You can find out if you're a piler, stuffer, a magician. And I'm on Instagram, Welcome Home ADHD. I try to post, mostly home content, but sometimes, it bleeds into like, hey, my ADHD brain just did this. So, because I'm excited. I want to share stuff with people. So that's the best way to find me. You can email me. I have a newsletter and some other resources. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and we're talking to Kristin Koliha. And this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been really a pleasure.
And that is all for today, folks. A big thanks again to Kristin for jumping in on the show for this week. Want to start a discussion on today's topics? Are you looking for a free community to join and grab some ADHD tips and tricks? Join our free and secret Facebook community by going to ADHDrewired.com and clicking on the community tab. Then if you are looking for real-time accountability or weekly sessions to help keep you on track, whether it's for cleaning, writing, decluttering, studying, big projects, little projects, or just want to check in, go ahead and check out our Adult Study Hall community at adultstudyhall.com. It's free to try for the first week and only $19.99 a month after that. Finally, if you haven't already, whether you're new to the show or if you've been a long-time listener, consider leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player if your app accepts reviews. Your reviews help get this show into more headphones, and we all want all of our listeners, that's you, to know that you're not alone. And if you haven't checked out Coach Kristin Martz's podcast, the ADHD Creatives Podcast, go check that out now on your favorite podcast app. Look for the green artwork. It's ADHD Creatives with an S. And thank you one more time to Kristin K for joining me in today's episode. Thanks again for tuning in this week, and we will catch you next week. Oh, wait, one more thing. I also want to extend a huge thank you. I feel immense gratitude. I'm actually recording this ad right now on February 8th. Tomorrow was my last day of work for 3 weeks. I'm taking the first vacation of this magnitude for this length since I think college. And I just want to thank everybody on my team. I want to thank Lisa and Brian and Kristin for covering my coaching sessions while I was gone. Because self-care is so important. And, I've been talking a bit more on the show about burnout, and I am just thrilled to be able to be taking this break. And I'm so looking forward to coming back. By the time you're hearing this, I will already be back. But I am right now, because of podcast time, I'm recording this, but it's going to be released in the future. I know it hurts my brain every single time, but I just want to thank everyone on my team, from Laura, who does our marketing, Lisa, who does just all the behind the scenes stuff. She's my executive assistant and community manager, and everyone in our community. So thank you. I'm speaking into the future now. I'm thrilled to be back. I think I'm really recharged now. I don't know. All right. I just wanted to say thank you, and we'll catch you next week.